I've just put in a wee addition, if you may wish to consider that. Just about community boards, if, it can be worked around or whatever, just as a starter.
I just thought, following up from the presentation that we had this morning, that we should take the view that something along the lines that the Hagley Ferrymead, Burwood Pegasus and Shirley Papanui community boards be asked to consider this report and make recommendations on the proposals that affect their wards, consulting with the affected ratepayers remaining in the residential red zone, because then it creates an opportunity to actually consult with those 70 odd people that are there, and it leaves that with the individual community boards to meet with their groups, because they're quite different. And I've met a number of people in the Brooklands area, for example, have got no intention of leaving regardless of what they're offered. So, and for some of them, they've actually turned down 100% offer on their entire property because they want to stay there. I mean, I met a woman just recently, and I know it's anecdotal, but at the Spencerville opening that I went to recently, a woman told me that her mother had actually asked Sarah to reverse the decision, that she'd already taken the offer, or said that she was going to take the offer, and she wanted to reverse it because, she'd lived there for 35 years and she doesn't want to leave. So while it's a voluntary offer and not a compulsory acquisition, this is a position that we're in. What I said on the radio the other day was that, really we need to be having a discussion with the Crown about where the cost should lie, because this is not a decision of our making. But anyway, that's another issue to raise. So that the Hagley Ferrymead, Burwood Pegasus and Shirley Papanui community boards be asked to consider this report and make recommendations on the proposals that affect their wards, and consult with the affected ratepayers remaining in the red zone. And basically that's to be reported back to the council for further consideration.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, thank you. It is about the affected ratepayers remaining. We're also having issues with ratepayers in those boundary areas.
That is true.
How does
actually
that work there?
Well, why don't you just say, we'll just put consult with affected ratepayers.
Okay, that'd be good.
Yeah.
And I mentioned boards because they recognise our RAs, and it's through those, Dallington, Burwood, your RAs, etc., that we're having issues at the moment over communications over works. So as it is, so I think if we could include them, that'd be great.
Yeah. So moved by Glenn, seconded by Pauline. Yanni?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask though, if there's like one sensible road, for example, and I've seen councils a picture of Avonside Drive by the park, which is causing ongoing issues and problems. Is there any way to get that looked at, just as, even if it's a temporary kind of basic improvement, so it's usable?
Well, I mean,
it's pretty horrific. I just take the point, it's pretty depressing for people that use these roads on a daily basis to have to deal with some of the
we can't use that road because I tried to use it the other day and had to go right around the block. You can't enter Avonside Drive from the Gloucester Street.
No, you got Remo Street. Yeah.
You can from Wainoni Road.
Yeah.
Hey?
But I mean, there's probably a few places. There's probably not a lot, but there's probably a few that just do need a little bit more TLC, just as an interim, because there's high community activity happening in these places. So, is there any process to do that?
Yeah, I mean, the issue is the Avonside Drive. So, as you know, the the Wainoni Avonside Community Services Centre is still open, and I know that the limited service is the proposal on the road. Hang on. But as Yanni's pointed out, the Oh, sorry, the road status is the top one. So you've got a yellow line, which is in service reduced in that little smidgen of road, and then you've got out of service all the way down Avonside Drive, even though people are still parking there for Avon Park and utilising Avon Park, as I understand. It's a full sports field, is it? Yeah. And the grounds have been repaired and new toilets. And I know that you can say that, well, everyone can enter there through Retreat Road, but actually they can't. I mean, not Retreat Road, Kerrs Road, but they can't because there's just not enough room for all of the cars there. So they're parking on Avonside Drive. So decommissioning it is actually not really an option at the moment.
We can change that. That's absolutely fine to a reduced level of service. Keep it open and operating.
Yeah, you might need to check that one. But anyway, I mean that if we refer this back to the individual community boards, then they can go through these one by one. Yep.
Can we just get Chris to talk to, so that council are clear of the implications of the delay this might create before you make a decision?
So I guess there's 4 parts to this report. The first one is the issue that council already considered back in December, which was the infrastructure that needs to traverse the red zone to connect up the 2 green zones on either side. So that's things like major trunk sewer lines and Breezes Road and so on, that issue that was discussed by council back in December.
For clarification, that's the stuff that we need to keep open,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Yes,
correct.
that's
Yes,
right.
Yep.
That's right. So that's already been considered by council and provided to Sarah. The second issue is that the servicing this infrastructure is, as you will see in the report, is costing an awful lot of money per month because of the service, the way we have to provide pump out services for some wastewater and so on and so forth, and keeping services open. The fourth point is to investigate options that we may be able to put in place to continue to service the properties that are still occupied within the 2 red zones. And there are several options there which haven't been investigated at this stage, so things like low pressure sewers or whatever the options might be. And the last 4th point is particularly around the streets and some of the infrastructure that is not currently being used, it's not needed to service anything, being allowed to take it out of service. By take it out of service, we don't mean take it out of the ground, we mean just close it off so that we're not losing any water through it or whatever. It will still be there in a decommissioned state. So quite comfortable with, as the recommendation goes, to go back to the community boards and discuss some of those, but we do need to give an indication to Sarah at some point, who have the powers under the Act to formally close some of those roads that are being inappropriately used and are not needed to service the people that are currently living in the red zone. So these plans provide for those roads remaining open so that people can get to and from their property, but it does enable some of the roads that are not needed for any purpose to be formally closed by Sarah under their Act.
I don't know if you heard the presentation this morning from Ernest Sau, who represents people who are living there. He made the point that it's not their fault that they're there without other neighbours around them, that they've been kind of left high and dry, although they're anything but. I think that he made a very strong point that, that this isn't their fault, and yet the first he knew about this was when it appeared on the council agenda. And it was reported in the newspaper. So, I mean, what we've got an obligation to do is to consult with the people who are affected. So, I mean, it's a little bit like the discussion we just had on the networks before on parks, is that you've really got to start from the affected community and work your way up. So, I mean, I personally have no difficulty with the idea that we close down infrastructure that isn't being used by anyone where it makes sense to do that. I think what Yanni's highlighted around Avon Park is that there are other issues that aren't just about residents, you know, people who are living there. It's also about access to facilities, and in that case, it's a park. And I think that we need a mechanism for ensuring that we don't close off access to that, you know, at the same time that we're reviewing this. So it's not just in the context of how much does it cost to provide the service based on the number of ratepayers that there are in the area. It's really looking at the, you know, access to facilities in that broader sense, you know, in terms of like the park's use. But I think that that we've really got to go out and talk to those people. There's only 70 odd people that are in this category, and I think that they've got to be very much a part of what the alternative might be.
Can I just come in on that?
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, sorry. That is the intent, but we had to do, as Chris said, we had to do a wee bit more investigation work, because no one is getting services turned off. Let's make that very clear.
And
we're going to continue to service those people still residing and occupying homes. We need to do a wee bit more work after this work to look at better ways of delivering those services, because at the moment they've got big services to one house right down the end of a long road, and it just doesn't work. So what we had to do after this piece of work is review how we're going to deliver those services to those people remaining, consult with them, and then bring that back through the back to the elected members.
But
so
look, there are different people out there. There are some people out there who will stay no matter what.
Well,
there are other
that's
people.
What we're assuming.
There are other people. No, but there are other people who would leave if they were given the same offer as everyone else. But there is a small group of them who haven't been given the same offer as everyone else. You know, they've been offered their rating valuation for their land only, even though they've got a house on it. I mean, can you confirm that if it was a compulsory acquisition, whether they were insured or not would have nothing to do with it?
So that whole area and the Crown offer, in terms of commercial, because commercial hadn't been...
No, I know what the new offer is.
Yes.
I'm talking about residences, people who've got homes in the residential red zone that weren't insured. If it was a compulsory acquisition, would we be allowed to take into account their insurance status?
You mean us, the council, or Sarah?
If we were compulsorily acquiring property, would we be allowed to take into account insurance status? If we were taking it for road or taking it for park, would we be allowed to say, oh, by the way, you're not insured?
If we were taking it for a road or a park, that wouldn't be of interest to us because we're interested in the land.
Yeah, that's right. But the rating the insurance status in a compulsory acquisition has no place to play in the amount that you pay by way of compensation, correct?
So that's correct. And at the moment, it's not a compulsory acquisition, it's an offer. It remains an offer.
But is it a voluntary offer when you've got no other choice?
Well, that's a question not for us.
No, but that was the question that was in front of the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And they said that it wasn't lawful. Anyway, the point that I'm making is that I'd like to know who would want to leave if they were offered 100% of their rating valuation for their property, and who wants to stay anyway, because I think how we approach this might be governed by that decision. I'd like to know who would go if they would have the same offer that everyone else got, and who really are the genuine stayers, and what do we do then to support those? Because I think they're two quite different groups of people.
I agree, and in terms of preparing these plans, we've just assumed that everyone, irrespective of their insurance status or the offers they've been received, is living there and has a right to to service provision in terms of the infrastructure, the water and the wastewater and the roads that service those properties. So
That is true, but
Yeah.
what we offer, what we consider might be governed by the answer to that question. So there needs to be a very personal engagement with people. There's such a small number, you know, that they've got also a right to have their privacy protected too. So that's why I think that we get a proper consultation process through the community boards to really help people. And maybe it's through this community governance or the strengthening communities need to be involved in this as well, because this is a very delicate and sensitive issue for these people, a small number of people, and you know, we're having to make big decisions here.
I think the key too is that a lot of the land is cleared. There's no longer dwellings or houses or anything there. And we want to shut off that infrastructure to protect it, especially with water supply where you get infiltration and you know, we have to keep it clean and safe for use. So
I don't think anyone's got an objection to that. The issue is around some of the roads and the next steps and how we engage, you know, the individuals. Because I mean, to find out in the newspaper that we're considering going down this track, and then the way it was reported, you know, made it sound like we were considering cutting off their services, which we're not.
But
and it's good that we've got that on the record.
So as I understand, you're looking for some reassurance that we're talking with the community that is there, and using that information in terms of bringing the issues back in terms of what options there are.
Yeah, but engaging the community boards in that process.
that's correct. And part of this process is the work that we've been doing with Sarah for something like 9 months now in terms of the red zone and the future use, and so they have been part of the reason for these plans is to inform them what council's needs are within the red zone, so that Sarah are part of that that process. And this was something that was discussed with Sarah back in May as something that they wanted for their to understand their consultation process that they need to go through.
Well, are people generally happy with the cutting off of the services in the areas that are not roads? So if we leave the roads up to the individual community boards and enable the community boards to actually work with staff around that consultation process on the future delivery of other services, yeah?
Mindful of the deputation that we heard around the water. So, you know, I haven't had any concerns expressed, but I do think there's a fundamental principle that the people that are affected we talk to.
No, but
So-
I'm saying that the services be cut off where there is no one being serviced by it.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but I'm leaving the roads separate because that's, as I understand it, the issue that the individual community boards would like to look at.
Sure. But I don't understand the impact of, say, the sewer system. You cut it off in areas which it's not being used. Does that mean the people that are there suddenly have to have septic tanks?
No. That's you're jumping to the next step.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's correct. There's a next stage in this whole thing, which is for us to investigate alternative servicing provisions. Now, we haven't done that yet. So what you're approving today is for us to go away and look at those people who still remain there to have an alternative servicing provision. And then we speak to those. That's when we speak to the people, when we know what we can provide. At the moment,
except that what we provide might be judged by whether they would stay. I mean, anyway, regardless of the offer that was made. Yeah. So
Decommissioning X amount now and some people leave, well, we can decommission a bit more when they go. It's movable. Yeah, and because we're not taking anything away, it's just decommissioning and... And I think it's good that we've defined the difference between the types of infrastructure, and it seems that the roading is more important to most people at this stage. No one's toilet's going to get affected without there being something else in place, and in actual fact, probably most of our costs are incurred by leakage into broken pipes that we're having to pump out. So if we decommission those, that's where our savings will be.
So, I mean, what I don't want to do is basically sign off on a series of maps, you know, where we were asked this morning to fact check some of them. I mean, I know where Ernest lives, and he is right on the boundary. If he'd been on the other side of the road, he'd have been green zoned and no problem. So and in fact, if they'd put a driveway, if they'd moved his driveway, he wouldn't have needed to be red zoned either. I mean, it's just, yeah, lines on maps are very challenging for people sometimes. I think that the pipes that he gets to his place are main pipes that you're not going to be taking out anyway. So, because it's servicing green zone.
Yeah,
So,
I think what I realise though that some of those main pipes that are still servicing these people are vulnerable. Like the water supply, there's a lot of those are still over. A majority of them are still overland. So that's why we wanted to relook at those people who are still there and see if we can get a better, you know, and a more affordable system to them. And if there's one house down the end of a very long road still on the main supply, you know, it's costing a lot of money to keep that running. We may put a smaller line in or a lower pressure line, because
yeah.
What you must realise is that all this infrastructure is designed for servicing hundreds of houses. Suddenly we've only got 2 or 3.
Totally agree. But as Ernest said, it's not their fault that everyone else has gone and they can't.
And we've never taken that stance.
I know.
Just take that out of your mind. We've always looked at this. We have to provide services,
Yep.
and we will. And no one's ever said that, you know, they're there. That's their privilege, and we will supply services. So.
Yeah, but the trouble is that the way that it's reported makes it look as if they're not entitled to be there.
No one's
And
ever.
actually, some of them would go if they got the same offer as everyone else. And if they were compulsorily acquired, they would have got the same compensation as everyone else. So, you know, it's just, you know, I totally get where he's coming from, and he's speaking for, you know, a wider group, but not all of them, because for some of them, they've already had 100% offer for their properties, and they want to stay. They don't want to go at all. So, so can we reframe this so that we're not approving every single status of the horizontal infrastructure as in service full, in service revised, out of service to be commissioned, because that has to be subject to a kind of a fact checking. But in principle, the council confirms that horizontal infrastructure. Well, essentially, we want a wording that says that we want you to be able to go ahead and decommission that which does not service anyone. And we want, but we do want the community boards to look at the roads, and we want the community boards to be engaged with the community, the affected communities, because being on the edge of a red zone is also challenging for people as well when they see things happening.
And I'm not wanting to slow anything down, it's just, in fact, from past experience, it probably speeds it up if you take people with you. Because when you don't, it all goes to custard and,
Liam, in the resolution we've used the word consult, is that correct, or do we want to engage? Or is this going to be a full consultation?
No,
it's directed to those people, isn't it?
Yeah, it's engage with the affected community.
Consultation's
But
quite different, so we should...
where did it... Sorry, where is the consultation? I don't...
consult us when we tell you, and I think engage is
and then what they've got.
Sorry, I can't see...
Is at the bottom as number 4.
Was in the amendment that we
This
set up?
one,
That needs
approve the
reworded.
council, it's the staff work with Sarah.
We know what we want to say, but look, can somebody write up some words and we'll come back to it? Can someone just write up some words?
Okay.
Yep. Let's just go on and do the Christchurch Earthquake Mayoral Relief Fund applications. Do I have a mover for that?